box.
Well, it looks pretty good, but I think we ought to plug it in and hear what it sounds like. Okay, what do we have here? This is a Rift amplification amp. Rift are a UK, England-based amp maker. It's one guy, I believe, Chris Fantana. I hope I pronounced that correctly. And I came across them from just seeing them on Anderton's website, and then I've seen some other stuff about them on YouTube. And it looks like one guy who's a amp wizard builder who basically makes a lot of amps to sort of custom tastes, as well as a set of amps in all sorts of types. This one in particular is a signature amp for a blues guitarist called Aynsley Lister, who I first came across in a video on TPS. It was quite recent actually. I think he was with Mick working on creating a bigger tone for himself. It seems to me that he doesn't use many pedals really anyway, and he relies on the amps. So he came to Mick to see what pedals might help him to make a bigger tone. I've got to say, I don't think there was anything wrong with Aynsley's tone. It's pretty remarkable as far as I'm concerned, and he sort of sparked some thoughts in my head about where I wanted to go with what I'm doing in playing terms. But he's plays the most beautiful, relaxed, sort of ambient to blues guitar stuff, and I love it. But I've only seen little bits of him playing. I then saw him on a few other things. I think he was on an Anderton's video and etc. So go and look him up. If you haven't seen any of those, you might have done anyway. So he worked with Rift Amps to produce this amp, and all the pieces just fell into place for me. I had, at the end of last year, decided I would buy a Rift amp this year. I liked the whole vibe. I liked the attention to detail. I just, from what I could find and read and hear about it, Rift amps sound like they're going to be like incredible amps. So I didn't know which one I would get. I'd looked at a few different models, but this one sparked my interest, not only because Aynsley Lister is a player who I think does what I would love to aspire to do, but it just seemed like they put so much time and effort. I think it's 4 or 5 years of development into this, and I hadn't found another combo amp like this that I'd wanted with EL34 tubes. This is the first time I'm even playing EL34s, I think. And it's got 2 EL34s. It's a 35 watt amp, so it's pretty loud. Unlike my Tone King, which is 35 watts and has an attenuator, this doesn't have an attenuator, but the master volume, I've literally just come from playing at the little first demo. I just turned it on and played something where you're going to hear little clips. So it sounds like the master volume is pretty darn good, so that's great. When I come to do my full review and everything, I'll use an attenuator so I can open up the master volume and you'll hear that. Then it's got a speaker that I've never come across, an Eminence the Governor speaker. Again, from what I've just heard, it sounds glorious. It's got a valve-driven spring reverb, which runs off a 12 AY7 tube. I'm going to go into a lot more detail about this when I do my full review. So I just really wanted to show you what this amp was. All I can say is, having turned it on, it's definitely the best combo amp I've ever played. I mean, by far. Just the feeling that I'm getting from playing it, the dynamics, the reverb that seems to be so musical and is doing something different than any reverb I've ever played with before. Again, I've played this amp for a total of 20 minutes now, and I like to just do these first impressions videos because you get all the excitement. I'm really excited with this amp. As soon as I finish this video, I'm going to go and play it for hours with every different guitar. And you know, if you want to sort of join along on that journey of seeing what this amp is all about, then please subscribe to the channel and give this video a thumbs up for me. It really helps out. So let's hear a little bit more, and then I just want to talk more about why I bought another amp, which may be interesting to some of you and may not be to others. It depends whether you've been following my channel or not, but I'm going on a little journey of discovery basically with all the gear, and it seems to me that a lot of people do this in their first few years, and it's a really interesting, exciting thing, if you know, to try lots of different things and explore whether it fits you or not. So let's hear a little bit more, and as I said, you're not going to hear all the amp's tones today. I've just plugged it in and played some simple stuff, and I'll be back with a review. I normally try and give an amp a good month or so of playing it almost every day until I'm ready to. I don't need to. When I say review, I'm not saying yes or no. I clearly love the amp already because I bought it. So I'll go through what it can offer to people with different guitars and everything like that. So let's hear a bit more, and I'll be back in a second. Okay, so if you've been following along on the channel, you know I've been on this sort of journey to discover lots of things, and then recently to try and simplify it all back down again, having spent over a year trying out lots of different gear, you know, lots of guitars, pedals, and amps. And actually this amp, I know it sounds like I'm just buying another thing to complicate things even more, but actually I feel like this is part of my simplification process. I've been wanting to get one combo amp that would ultimately be the amp I'd probably do a lot of outside playing with, you know, whatever that would be, with friends in like a rehearsal room, or if I ever play any small gigs or anything like that. And although I love playing with my little Princeton reverb, I wanted something with a bit more flexibility and a completely different tone, really. My Tone King Sky King is great. I'm probably going to be letting go of that amp though. I've spent a good time with it, and it overlaps so much with my 2-rock amps that maybe I don't need it. And so when I saw Aynsley Lister talking about this amp and playing this amp, I thought, wow, this seems like I could even probably just rely on this amp without any pedals. We'd have to see. And I think from my first 20 minutes with it, the fact that you can ride the volume on your guitar to go from really sweet tones up to pretty healthy overdriven tones, but keeping that, I want to say vintage, but it's like a sparkly, bright, it's quite different from the American sound that I'm used to. And so this fills that completely, and I can totally see how if I were recording music, I might pair it up with my 2-rocks to give a different edge. And if I was going out to play somewhere that in this form, it looks like, you know, it's not too heavy, it's not too big. I'd probably be driving, so it just suits me. I put a lot of thought into this one for once, and I have to say, like, despite the fact that I'm incredibly excited about it right now, I feel like I've made the right decision. And sometimes you just know in your gut when you've made the right decision about something. And, you know, I put myself in the frame of mind of thinking, if someone who's been building amps for a living and someone who's been playing guitar for a living professionally have spent 5 years coming up with a solution to something that, you know, I wanted, there's probably a good chance it's quite good. So it seems to be right up my alley. And yeah, as I said before, I'll be using it a lot on the channel anyway, as I normally use various amps. So for any pedal reviews and things, it'll be one of the amps I use for that. And I'll be doing some more in-depth videos about the amp by itself. So if you're going to find those interesting, as I said, please subscribe to the channel. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed that. Cheers.